Hello everyone, we are GSA Local 1. Our group members are Baran, Hongru, Lingzi, Kyungduk, and Alexandra. Today we are going to talk about Pega's on strike. Following lists are our agenda. There were three major culinary union strikes in Las Vegas. First, two citywide strikes in 1976. Second, two citywide strikes in 1984. Third, the Frontier Hotel from 1991 to 1998. Please watch the video. It is about 18 minutes long and it tells you how the union protest and a lot of information in it. Now let's start. Let's talk about when these three major strikes happened. First, the citywide strikes in 1976 happened in March 15, 1976. Second, the citywide strike in 1984 happened in April 2nd, 1984. Third, the Frontier Hotel from 1991 to 1998 happened from September 21, 1991 until February 1, 1998. Don't you guys want to know which employers were involved in strike? I will tell you. First, in 1976, the Culinary Union joined Musician Local 369 and Stagehands Local 720 in striking 15 Las Vegas casinos. It's including Caesar's Palace, the Dunes, Circus, and the MGM Grand Hotels for 16 days, effectively shutting down most of the strip. 11 casinos, which Sands, Desert Inn, Frontier, Castaways, Silver Slipper, Landmark, Thunderbird, Sahara, Flamingo Hilton, Las Vegas Hilton, and Tropicana closed temporarily during the strike. Culinary Union represented 23,000 members in 1976. Some of the hotels, they're not even there anymore and we have never heard of before. But at the moment, they were there. Second, in 1984, more than 17,000 Culinary Union members from 32 Las Vegas Strip resorts went on strike alongside IATSE, Bartender Musicians Union. It means most of the hotels on the strip joined, and it was one of the largest strikes in Las Vegas history. Keep in mind, 6 casinos, which including Four Queens, Sam's Town, California, Holiday International, Holiday Inn South, and Marina Hotel and Casino did not initially sign union contract. 3 resorts became union again over the years. The Holiday International in downtown Las Vegas closed after the 1984 strike and eventually reopened as the current unionized Main Street station. The Marina Hotel and Casino merged with MGM in 1989 as MGM Marina and was union. Four Queens later becomes union again in 2003. Third, the member of the Culinary Workers Union Local 226 in Las Vegas staged a strike against the Frontier Hotel.
During the city strikes in 1976, there were 4 unions on the strike and more than 3,000 members in direct strike from 4 striking unions, which are the Culinary Union, Musicians Local 369, Bartenders Local 165, and Stagehands Local 720. And in 1984, there were more than 70,000 employees on strike. There were cooks, maids, waiters, bartenders, change makers, and musicians, bellhooks, stagehands, and the other hotel workers against Caesar Palace, the Las Vegas Hilton, the Flamingo Hilton, the MGM Grand, and more than 20 other facilities in the Nevada Resort Association. From 1991 to 1998, there were about 550 Frontiers workers in joint strike. There were maids, cocktail waitresses, bartenders, cooks. They quit the job from Frontier hotels to protect the resource treatment of these employees. With the culinary unions and the other four local unions, there were bartenders 165, teamsters 995, operating engineers 501, and carpenters 17080 organized the strike. In 1976, the union's demand for hotels to pay an increase of $1.35 per hour over the next 3 years, plus increased health, retirement, and the other fringe benefits. The pay rate now ranges from $2.30 an hour to $5.37, and the union accept any form of lockout clause because they saw the clauses are irresponsible. Also, they demand for the right to not cross other union picket lines at the hotels. Next, before the strike in 1984, some some culinary workers' wage ranged from less than 300 per week to as much as $1,000 or more for some musicians and stagehands. The resort association was offering 5%, and the union demanded them to increase 8% a year. The second issue is the resort association. Granted, their employees had 40 hours of work a week, but they only had 20 hours per week in some cases. Also, unions dissatisfied with hotels and casinos making the decision, which they required employees to bear increasing medical and hospital expenses, and the union distribute the leaflets appealing to union members and other consumers to boycott Hilton hotels, Holiday Inns, and the Rementa Inns. In 1991, the Frontiers was one of the five former Howard Hughes owned casinos still standing. It had passed into the hands of Margaret Arardi in 1988. Authority wished to rid themselves was union representation, and she acted many unfair labor practices against their employees, such as they terminated pension funding contributions, spying on their employees. This series of provocations promoted several unions to take a strike vote on September 19, 1991. The culinary unions and the other four locals strongly protected and demanded the Frontier Hotel should stop a series of unfair practice against the employee, and the Frontier should cease its surveillance and for their union members and to start a good faith negotiation.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the hotel demands. So basically for the strike, the hotel is on no strike, no lockout. The employee is back to work, but there are some different demands between the different time. So for the 1976, the hotel one had the right to fire the union worker who went to the strike. I know it sounds like unfair and illegal, but that's 40, 50 years ago. The law is not that perfect. So we went to 1984. The hotel have a good demand, which is they want the union worker join their company health insurance plan and that cover non-union workers. And also the hotel agreed to leave them on the union plan and even give the union more money. But the union thing is still not the level what they want. So at that time, that one is broken. If we went to the Furnier hotel from the 1991 to the 1998, so they still have the same situation. The hotel want to give the employee let them join to the health plan. But at that time there is a lot of employees who fight for the union. So it's finally it's caused the hotel disagree and the union disagree, and after that the strike coming. It's caused a long time strike. Okay, so next part I'm going to talk about the illegal activity. So in the 1976, there are 16 people get arrested because they refused let the car into the parking lot. And went to the 1984, 900 people got arrested. But it's kind of a long time ago, and I didn't research any reason for that, but I just got from the local news. So we went to the near years, which is from the 1991 to 1998. There is 70 people die, and during the 7 years we get I remember it's talking about like more than 100 baby coming. So it shows like how long time for the strike for this one. Okay, so we went to the 1993. Several people start get yelling from the a couple from the California, and after that they turned into a fight, and finally the couple from California got hurt, and the 7 people got arrested. There are 7 people got arrested, and from the news they still said the hotel got the camera record all of those, but I didn't get the video. I didn't research the video. It's no video for this case. Okay, so the first week, there are several people get a human chain, and they do make street traffic for the 90 minutes. So the cops arrest near 100 people, and I just get some video. I mean the picture over here. You can see the people kind of enjoy the arrest. This thing is pretty cool, and even you can see still have some people get picture.
Besides picketing, what else did the union do to pressure the hotels? In the 70s, the syndicate tried to retain its influential grasp on the city, and they recognized the inherent power of the colonial union. The syndicate and the union had a common interest to fight against corporations, and the alliance was deemed a threat to corporations. Also, during the strike, union members refused to let cars into parking lots by blocking the area. In 1984, there was a mass union solidarity marches and demonstrations that resulted in more than 600 arrests. This was one of the largest number of union members arrested in the country's history, and therefore it was a great pressure to the corporations. Lastly, union members voted to double their dues to support a strike fund, showing firm determination, not backing down from the negotiation for the Frontier Hotel. After all, they never backed down and won the negotiation. On March 27, 1976, 3 of the 4 striking unions reached tentative agreement with hotel operators, and the last striking union came to an agreement after a few weeks. In 1984, culinary union members won a contract victory after 53 days on strike, but workers stayed out another 2 weeks in solidarity with musicians and IATSE for a total of 67 days. The strike ended on June 8, 1984. In the case of the Frontier Hotel, a settlement was reached on October 28, 1987, when Rufin announced he would purchase the new Frontier from the LRDs for $165 million. The strike ended on January 1st, 1998, when Frontier officials invited most of the employees back to work with the new contracts.
Who got what they wanted? The 1976 strike ended because without workers, the resorts could not function properly, and corporate managers were forced to accept the union's demands, which included a significant wage increase. They agreed to almost all of the culinary union's demands, including a $1.55 per hour raise over 4 years. The 1984 strike did not end well for the union. 6 hotels refused to sign new contracts, and the strike was unsuccessful for the union, and they elected new leadership. The Frontier strike made Las Vegas in general just look bad. This is a city based on imagery to bring in tourists. During this time, Las Vegas had 33 million visitors a year and spent hundreds of millions of dollars to put a positive image on the front pages. Because of the strike, it projected an image of instability and lack of safety due to the picket lines. The Frontier was sold, and the union got almost everything they wanted in the end. The new contract included a starting wage of $7.50 per hour for food servers, $9.50 an hour for hotel maids, and $12 an hour for cooks. Workers were making $2 an hour less before the strike began. The new owner also included an additional $3.5 million that went for the payment of wages owed to the striking workers. Hotel losses. In 1976, there were no official figures collected on the economic impact of the strike, but those familiar with the industry said that Clark County was losing between $10,000 and $30,000 a day in room taxes and other revenue, and that the state was losing a similar amount in sales taxes and gaming tax revenue per day. It was reported that the hotels estimated their gross loss at $2 million a day. The state and local government were forced to lay off hundreds of workers to make up for the severe loss of revenue from the strike. In 1984, the Las Vegas Strip had more than $100 million in losses during the 67-day strike. Frontier lost $50 million from 1991 to 1993. We could not find an exact number of total revenue loss during this time, but the strike did cut the Ilardi family's business in half, even though the economy was booming during that time.
In 1976, it was a win for the union. Our group think it was the union's deserved victory because the union knew that the business cannot function without them. The negotiation was already favorable to the union, and the corporations just had to accept their demands. There was an event where the union's leader got kidnapped and murdered. The death of the leader, Bramlett, cost the union 30% of its membership, and this event had a huge impact on the next strike. The strike held in 1984 was a failure for the union because the union had to go through a great number of layoffs. The situation for the union was not favorable because the leader, Bramlett, was murdered by the mobster, and there was an absence of leadership in the union to lead the negotiation against the corporations. Our group think it was a very drastic event that happened to the leader by the mobster. Nobody would have thought of that coming, and it was a severe damage to the union. And we think it was a rash decision to go on a strike with 18,000 workers without proper preparation. We believe that it was over-demanding demands from the union, and we think they could have avoided massive layoffs if they prepared realistic demands. Lastly, we believe it was a right move for the union to go on a strike against the Frontier Hotel because they had a clear demand in terms of unfair practices against employees and surveillance. The strike started in 1991 when the importance of human rights and the increasing people's contact with media were emerging. The colonial union was under a new leadership and much more stabilized than before. The colonial union and four other local unions strongly protested against Frontier Hotel. That was good enough to gain people's attention and arouse public opinion, which resulted in winning a new contract. There was about major colonial union strikes in Las Vegas, and here are the reference pages. And thank you very much.